Welcome, everybody. Today, we'll be talking about which lens suits your genre of photography. In fact, it's been a question asked by many people like, I want to do this type of photography, and which lens should I buy? It's not a straightforward question. What really happens is um, the lenses, what you choose, depends on several factors. For example, how comfortable you are with those lenses, how do you really like those lenses to do what you want. So the genres as such do not really dictate the lenses, but your way of handling those lenses and using those lenses. So for example, in lenses there are only two types of lenses, that is prime lenses, which do not change your focal length, and then you have zoom lenses where you can change your focal length. A lot of people call these prime lenses as what's called block lenses, but that's not really a correct terminology, because block lenses means it's the lens which is blocked is a block lenses. So in this case, you have a lot of focal lenses to work with. You have a normal lens which is at about 50 mm if you are using a full frame camera. If you are using a cropped camera like APS-C camera, then 35 mm is your normal lens. And if you are using a micro four thirds, then 25 mm is your normal lens. So when you say normal lens, you have to think of what camera you are using, and depending on that, the focal length changes. So all these focal lengths have got different way of showing out the results, because what focal length really does is not just frame a picture in a particular way, it also frames the foreground, midground and the background in a different way. For example, if you are using a wide angle lens, the difference between the foreground, midground and background becomes exaggerated and large. And if it is something like uh, tele lens, if you are using say a 300 mm or a 400 mm tele lens, then what happens is there is a compression of your apparent foreground, midground and background. So that all makes you tell a story. So depending on that, your whole outlook on how do you present your genre of photography changes. Now, I can see quite a lot of wedding photographers here. So I'll start off with a genre like wedding photography. Wedding photography and portrait photography, both of them require something close to say normal lens, or a, a portrait lens, what they call it as a 85 mm to 135 mm range. That is considered as a portrait lens range, because that gives a proper look of a person's face without exaggerating his nose. If you try to photograph a person with 35 mm close by, then you are going to distort his face and make it look odd. So as you go towards 50 mm, which is what exactly how we see through our normal eyes, that's why it's called a normal lens, or slightly more, that is 85 mm, or even more, something like 135 mm. So if you are looking for a zoom for a portrait lens for portrait photography as well as wedding photography, I think 70 to 200 will give you a good range. And this way we can go through several genres. For example, if you are in a macro photography, 60 mm to 100 mm or 120 mm is a macro lens. So the macro lenses are totally different lenses where we can close focus at a subject. So for a macro genre, you can't use normal lenses and try to do a macro photography. You can, not that you can't. You have to have either extension tubes or other ways of magnifying your subject. The same thing applies to, say, a landscape photography. When you're going for landscape photography, you want to have a wider uh, vista in your photograph. Then you go for the wider focal lengths like 35 mm, 24 mm, and that sort of focal length. But landscapes can also be done through a tele lens, because you want to compress those different vistas together, then you can use a telelens. So it is not hard and fast that a particular lens chooses suits a particular genre. But overall, uh, we can discuss, because I don't want to keep on talking. I want some questions from you regarding a particular genre, a particular field, and what particular lens you want to use. So if you have any questions, just raise your hand, and you can ask me a question or ask any of the panelists, and then we can go on discussing about different type of lenses and how we can use those lenses in your genre of photography.
Uh, Friends, please feel free to raise your hand and ask questions, because this is more about sharing, about how to choose a lens. So whatever doubt you have, do not think if you're going to look silly, or somebody might think it is not the right question to ask. Don't worry about that. There's no wrong question at all. So please feel free to raise your hand and ask whatever question you have.
Okay, let me ask a question then, since nobody is asking. In wedding photography, which is the commonest lens what you will be using, most of them? If you are a Canon user, I have seen a lot of people using 24-105. Rashmi, you can ask questions.
So let me bring up a few people from the rooms. I'll bring up a few of them.
Okay. Am I audible?
Yeah, you're audible.
No. Okay. I mean, to answer your wedding question, I guess it's the 2470 is generally the most popular one
Yes.
for wedding. I had a question. I've been wanting to get into macro photography for a very long time, but I've never known which is the first lens to start with, and which can be economical as well. So, would you have any
You have a
suggestions
Canon
for
or
that?
Nikon, or which camera?
Canon,
Canon.
Canon,
Okay.
Canon 5D Mark II.
Okay, 5D Mark II. Canon has got several macro lenses. The one of the commonest used macro lens is 100 mm lens. There are two type of 100 mm lenses available in the market. One is with the IS and one without the IS. In fact, the without the IS is very cheap. It's available for about 25 to 30,000 new lens, and second hand you should be able to get it much cheaper. And those lenses really are the ones to start off with. Or if you don't want to invest in a macro lens, you can use your existing lens. For example, if you have a 2470, you can add macro adapters which are called Raynox. These are adapters, these are basically magnifying glasses which are attached to the front of the lens. So it's like our magnifying glasses which we use to say burn paper using sunlight. Similar to that, only thing is they get attached to the front of the lens. So Raynox comes with two type of lenses. One is called Raynox 150, which is about 4 times magnification, and Raynox 250 is 8 times magnification. So they get fitted to any of the lenses in the front. There is a spring type of bayonet adapter which holds the lens in front of the filter thread. Next to the filter thread, it'll hold. So that way you can go very close to the subject and focus it using your regular lens itself. So this is
Okay.
one way of doing it. The second way, there is what are called as extension tubes. So these are the tubes which are fitted between your body and the lens. So you take out the lens, fit that extension tube to the body, and fit the lens to the front of the extension tube. So they come in various lengths. There is no glass in that. What they do is, they separate the lens away from the body and fit it. So that way, you'll get a magnification. The only drawback there is you don't get an infinity focusing. So when you are using extension tube, you are exclusively doing macro. So they can again use your regular 50 mm or a 70 to 200 or any one of the lenses. More the tele lenses, the better it is for the extension tubes, not on the wider lenses. So wide lenses like 28 mm and wider will not work with the extension tube, but any one of the tele lenses or even the zoom lenses will work. The third way of doing macro is to reverse the lens. So you get adapters which connects to the camera to the filter thread of the lens. So you are keeping the lens ulta so that the filter thread is closer to the body of the camera, and the portion which really fixes to the camera is on the front. So something like 50 mm, you will get an excellent macro of 1:1 if you use that method. But that only drawback what happens in Canon is that you won't be able to change the aperture. So you have to fix the aperture right in front before and then use it. So I would suggest either go for the extension tube method or the Raynox magnifying glass, one of these two methods, if you don't want to spend on a macro lens.
Oh, great. Thank you. I didn't know about the Renox lens in the front. So
Yeah,
that's
Raynox is the
something
cheapest
to-
solution. It's available for about 6,000, 7,000 rupees, the total whole setup.
Okay. And the other first lens I sort of missed hearing was the 100 mm Canon macro lens. is
Canon
it?
macro lens without IS.
Okay.
So there is one with
Without,
the IS, which is the latest lens. It has got a IS, but that is not needed because in macro most of the time you will be switching off the image stabilization, because image stabilization also does distort your macro when you're going that close.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Girish, any questions?
So anybody else has a question? Questions. I'm waiting for the audience to come up with questions, Krishi,
Yeah.
before I ask my questions.
Okay. Sure.
I'm hoping somebody else will ask the question. So kindly raise your hands if you have any questions. Any questions related to how to choose lenses for a particular genre of photography, you can ask.
Since there are hundreds of genres of photography, I don't know which one to really pick up.
Yeah, I mean that becomes a challenge.
Challenges.
That's one of the reasons. Yeah. Okay. Since we are waiting for questions to come from the audience, I'll come up. I'll ask the questions that I had.
Okay.
When we talk about tele lenses, we talk about, or when we compare the performance of a wide angle lens and a tele lens, one of the factors that we look into is the compression factor.
Yes.
So how does this really affect the final image in terms of, for example, let us say I'm shooting a landscape. How does this compression factor come into play?
Okay. It's all presenting your final image to the audience. That's what really makes these differences. For example, if you are in a hilly place and in front of you there is a large vista of beautiful greenery, and then in the background there are hills. So you want to capture this particular picture as a landscape. Now, here you need to find out what emphasis where you are going to put. Are you putting that emphasis on the greenery in front of you, showing such a beautiful greenery, or are you putting emphasis on the mountain ranges which are behind? So if you plan to put the foreground and the midground as your main emphasis, then you have to go for a wide angle lens which emphasizes those particular foreground and midground. But if you're planning to emphasize the background much more than the foreground and midground, then you have to go the other way around. Then you have to shift to something like a 70-200 and go something close to about say 200 mm lens. So then what happens is your compression causes the foreground and the midground to become smaller and the background to become much more prominent. So you are giving a weightage which is different from how you are basically looking at it with your normal eye. So that decision you have to take while taking photograph. That cannot be done post processing. So that's why sometimes you may need a wide angle lens where you want to emphasize on the foreground, or you may need a telephoto lens to emphasize the background. Now, one more thing which really happens when you emphasize the foreground and the midground is most of the time what happens is we concentrate only on the midground. That is not something which is very close to you. But unfortunately, in a landscape, that really falls flat if you don't have a very prominent foreground. Because the depth perception of a photograph is different from depth perception when you stand in front of the scene. When you are seeing through your two eyes so that you have a depth perception. When you are seeing a photograph at the end results, there is no depth perception because photograph is a two-dimensional object. So you need to create that depth perception by giving extra weightage to the foreground. So that's where the foreground element becomes much more important. So you have to go to a foreground element, which I go closer to the foreground element, make sure that foreground element is much more prominent, then emphasize on the midground, especially when you want to have a wide angle lens. So that's the trouble with the landscape photography.
I think that actually,
Yeah, since Clubhouse is auditory media, it's very difficult to explain this in words.
Krishi, I have a question.
Sure, sir.
Sorry, I joined little late. I don't know whether that aspect was covered earlier or not. I'm interested in, portrait photography, indoor with family, friends, and all.
Okay.
So, which one is ideal? Is it a prime which has a fixed f, or you can just go for a kit lens and then experiment?
I think prime with the fixed aperture is a better one. The reason is when you go for a zoom, the smallest aperture what you get in a zoom lens is f2.8. You don't
Okay.
get anything like f1.4, 1.2. That sort of aperture is only available. The wide aperture is only available in a fixed lens, prime lens.
Prime lens, okay.
So ideally, for a portrait, if you are doing one-to-one portrait, I think 85 mm is the ideal one. But if you want to have a group portrait, I think 50 mm or 35 mm. No, I think since you are using a full frame camera, I think 50 mm is a better one. 50 mm, you get a 1.8 lens, which is very cheap.
Okay.
In both Nikon and Canon. So
Okay. Is the indoor, outdoor, does it make any difference, or
because of the light,
it is a matter of settings?
It's basically
Lighting.
because of the light. Indoor the light is low, so if you have a flash or a studio setup and all, that's all cumbersome. So you might as well go for a wider aperture, like f1.8 can be shot at about say f2.8 comfortably. And remember, when you buy a lens with the very wide aperture, don't go for that widest aperture in that lens. The quality of pictures at the widest aperture are not good. But a slightly stopped lens, like you got a 1.4 lens, but you stop it at about f2, it will be brilliant. So, but just because you bought a 1.4 lens, don't go for 1.4 aperture, because that the quality will not be that good at 1.4 aperture unless you are paying a few lakhs for that.
Okay. Very good. Nice point you
Thank you.
highlighted. Thank you. Thank you.
does anybody else have a question? Please raise your hands.
Shall I ask one more question?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure. Please go ahead, sir.
I was keen, and last few days back, I just had a hands-on in the astrophotography also. So, do you recommend any special lenses for that, or just regular whatever we were using, that wide-angle lenses, that should be enough?
Usually,
Just like you have like you have prime lenses for proper
Yes.
f focal length. So, do you recommend any special things and filters are needed to get a maximum out of that, or is always we need to stack the images? These are the two
Okay.
problems I had it.
Okay. One thing is wider the lens, it's better. Like if see what happens is when you're going for astrophotography, your light gathering capacity also has to be brighter, as well as you need to have a very large, wider scope, so that you can get uh,
As
as a
much as
long
possible.
shutter speed as possible, because shutter speed, there is that 500 rule or 450 rule, so for astrophotography, and
Okay.
that rule requires you to have a wider lens. So ideally something around the range of 20 mm, 24 mm is quite good enough. So if you have something like 1.8 lens at 24 mm, that's very good for
Okay.
astrophotography. That will give you
Okay.
a beautiful range. Wider also is fine, but I think you can compromise, because as you go wider and wider, uh, distortion also becomes a problem, because lot of lenses, when you go extremely wide, they get distorted. You get these cheaper manual lenses at about 21 mm or 18 mm and that range,
Okay.
not made by the company, but there are a lot of Chinese manufacturers who have gone into these sort of lenses. So they are very good, and they're extremely good. They are manual lenses, but that doesn't matter, because anyway you are going to keep them open and then keep on taking photographs. So it will be just good enough. So somewhere in that range of between 18 to 24, that's where you have to look for.
Okay. Another silly question I'll ask.
Sure.
Will it be any difference of using a regular body versus mirrorless body?
Not really. The mirrorless is actually a regular body without the mirror. There is no difference
Okay.
between DSLR and mirrorless. It's only a marketing stuff, because they couldn't sell DSLR anymore. They are marketing mirrorless. So people
Nice.
who think that mirrorless is great, in fact, losing out on the great value of DSLR, which is available cheaper now. So it is always better to go for DSLR now. I'm talking about in another 3 years horizon, you'll have beautiful DSLR which have already come into the market at a much lower rate than jumping in for the mirrorless. Mirrorless still has its own problems which are not yet solved, and Canon and Nikon both are struggling, because they are just into the second generation of mirrorless. Sony somewhere is in the third, fourth generation. So Sony is slightly ahead as far as mirrorless, but not quite ahead, because mirrorless has an inherent its own problem, which is not there in the DSLR. So
Yes.
DSLR is a much mature system, but unfortunately the market dynamics is such a way that everything is going for mirrorless, because and remember, in your DSLR there is a mirrorless. As soon as you open your live view, that itself is a mirrorless part. The
Okay.
the live view part of every DSLR is a mirrorless.
Oh, okay. That's true.
So you have two in one in DSLR, whereas that doesn't exist in mirrorless.
Real mirrorless.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you,
welcome.
Krishna.
Dheeraj, any questions?
Hey guys, Prathamesh here. Can you hear me
Ah,
properly?
yeah. He,
Okay. Uh, one of the questions, since we are discussing lenses, I wanted you to elaborate on the importance of the lenses when people are looking to buy out them, especially when it's a first purchase, like a camera body and lenses, and they start asking questions like what type of camera I should buy. Is it should I go for the professional camera and cheaper lens, or should I go for a decent lens and decent camera, and how exactly the lens and camera body differentiates each uh,
okay.
in terms of the resulting the final image. Would you like to elaborate on
Oh,
that, please?
definitely, definitely. This is one of the most common questions which comes, because people try to go for a very expensive camera and a very cheap lens, and that will be a disaster, because if you have a great lens and a cheaper camera, you can produce better pictures. Now let me elaborate few points as far as the lenses are concerned, what to look for a lens. In your budget, I usually tell them like this: if you have a sort of a budget, in that put less than half of the budget for the camera and more than half of the budget for the lenses. The usual logic is the other way around, because most of the time the camera is suggested by one of their friends and they already got fixed on that particular camera they wanted to buy. But the lens, they go for the kit lens along with that camera, and that will give you a disastrous results, because most of the time the kit lenses have got a aperture which is like 3.5 to 4.5 in that sort of range, and when they try to do indoor shoot using those cameras, because most of the time the initial beginning camera shooting is with the family friends at indoor home on a low light situation without using flash, and that's the first experience with that particular camera, and they will find it extremely disturbing because the camera automatically goes for a very high ISO, and most of these cheaper cameras don't have a good high ISO performance, and they get a pathetic results. And when they use so usually my suggestion is spend more money on the lens, and the lens will last. The bodies you might change over a year or two. So beginner buyer, I usually suggest them go for a cheaper DSLR initially, learn from that, and then go for one of the professional ranges if they want to. So spend money later than right at the beginning. So lenses, I usually ask them either go for a second-hand pro lenses if they are comfortable with it. Otherwise, spend much more money and buy prime lenses than going for a zoom. So
Right. So
that's my
my next
usual
question
this.
was
Yeah,
like connecting to this one only, because um, lot of times what happens is beginners are like not they're still trying to evaluate into what genres they want to fit in and so on,
correct.
and hence they are like little uneasy while buying a lens which is like a costlier than a camera, or they are still finding out their way through. So in such cases, what type of lenses you would recommend to beginner photographers?
Okay. Again, those variable aperture type of zooms I try to avoid. Usually there is a step ahead of that 3.6 to 4.5, that range. There is these f4 lenses. So f4 series in Canon also there is 24 to 70 f4 and 70 to 200 f4. That ranges are there. So similar in Nikon also. So that would be preferable than going for something like 50 to 250 and that sort of ranges. So basically a fixed aperture so that they get a good quality. Again, fixed aperture zoom lenses gives you a much better quality than a variable aperture. And if possible, let them go for the expensive lenses. Otherwise, they can compromise. Instead of compromising with the zoom, let them go for a prime, which are cheaper.
True.
There are beautiful 1.8 primes available, like 85 mm 1.8 and 50 mm 1.8. Those are beautiful lenses with good quality imaging, without compromising on the quality. The prices are less, but without compromising on the quality.
While you are at the lenses, is there any difference between the so-called branded versus the not so expensive ones, Krishi?
No, the gap between these two are now closing. For example, I'm in the Sony ecosystem. So Sony makes type of lenses which are called G lenses and GM lenses. GM is the expensive one. Whereas the Tamron and Sigma also makes lenses. Now the Tamron lenses are half the price of Sony lenses, but the quality wise they exceed the Sony lenses. So sometime you have to look at these third party lenses who are exclusively making lenses. So don't stick with the company lenses itself. Evaluate the lenses. Most of the time I try to get these lenses and write a blog and find out which one is better compared to the company made lenses. Don't believe that company made lenses are great. Evaluate each one of them and see which one you like, and it's price versus performance ratio, that's what matters.
Just to add to what Priti said, there was a time when the parent company lenses were better than any of the third party lenses. But over a period of time, uh, companies like Tamron have produced lenses which are far better than the parent company lenses. For example, your 7200 or the even the 90 macro lens. Uh, for the price you pay, they produce fantastic quality images. So even the DxO Mark company, which actually tests these lenses and gives you metrics in terms of the performance, how well they perform under different conditions. These third-party lenses have outperformed the parent company lenses. So it's not always true. So it's always better to, like Krishi said, it's always better to check out the lenses, read about them, and then make the decision.
Dheeraj, you wanted to ask some question?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Am I
please go ahead.
audible?
Yeah, you are audible.
Yeah. Okay, okay. So the thing was, the lens that you use for street, for street photography, you use normally ideally you would use a 50 mm.
Yes.
Sometimes there are situations where you need where you're looking for a wide angle,
Hmm.
but then the distortions that come with wide angle, are they? I mean, in the name of art, of course, everything is acceptable, but then is that a good thing?
Yeah, it's fine. I
And
mean,
similarly,
because
even for architecture, when we're using wide angle, like sometimes when you go to a temple space and you're trying to click with a wide angle, where you want to get all the necessary forms in space within your frame, so there's a lot of distortion happening, right?
yes.
So obviously, in the name of creativity and all, it's all fine, but
Okay,
how much
there is
is
there
good
is a
and how
trick
much is bad?
to get rid of those distortions. One is lens correction in the post processing. So you have a beautiful lens correction available in Lightroom as well as Camera Raw now. So you can use those lens correction, but when you are capturing such images, you have to make
Uh-huh.
sure that you have more space on all four sides. So you give that extra space so that when the lens get corrected,
Okay.
you are not chopping off the corners. So you prepare that initially, thinking, even though you are going to frame it in such a way, give some amount of framing space. So
Okay.
then you'll be able to lens correct in post processing, so that you can remove the distortions. Most of the distortions can be removed now.
And with lens correction, is there any what do you call anything? Any quality of the image goes down or something
No,
like
no,
that?
no,
Or
no,
what
no,
happens to
not
the image
not
when you lens
appreciable.
correct?
No, no. For example, I can take a photograph on a fisheye lens and correct it
Okay.
in such a way that it looks as though you are taken it in 50 flat lens.
Oh, oh, okay.
So that is possible. So don't bother about capturing the image. Capturing the image, you go as wide as possible and try to capture it, and then you can do a post processing. Uh, there are softwares which even defish fish eye effect.
Okay.
It's a paid software because the Lightroom and all don't have that built in, but they have a
Okay.
built in for let's say that wide angle lens like 1635 if you are using, uh, whatever distortion what you get at 16 can be easily corrected with Lightroom.
Okay. So you're saying you click what you want with whatever, and then
Exactly.
if you feel that
Yeah.
that image will look better with the distortion removed, then you do it on your software.
Yes, and you can also give how much of distortion you want. You need not go for a full distortion. You can give it at 50% distortion, where finally, at the end of the day, it is your idea which is going to come into the picture, not how your lens was or how the situation was. It's you who is the judge of the final image.
Okay. So, but the quality of the image is not impacted in
No,
that.
not at all.
That's
Not
just
at
one
all.
clarification.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah. Vinod,
Vinod, would you like to go ahead with your question?
Hello,
tell me, sir.
sir. Vinod here.
Yeah. Tell me.
I have two questions for you, sir.
Sure.
I am a Canon guy. I am more interested in bird photography.
Okay.
Right now, what I am using is 100 400 lens.
Okay.
Uh, which lens would be much better than the present lens I am using? And second one, sir. Second question is: you said camera lenses are far better than the Sony lenses.
Yeah.
Does it hold true even for Canon also, or
Not
still the Canon is
exactly.
better?
The Canon is still better. Canon is still better. I mean, you have to evaluate each lenses depending on their quality. For example, Tamron, you have 150-600, which is a excellent birding lens because you get 600 as a range, not as a quality.
Okay,
So the quality what you get at 400 is quite good. If you have a version 2 or version 3 of the 100-400, the quality is very good.
yes.
Uh,
Okay,
version
sir.
1 had issues. Now,
Okay, sir.
the other option
Ah.
I'll just answer your these two questions.
Okay.
And
Okay, sir.
so you have to go for a prime lenses. For example, you have to go either at 300 mm 2.8 or 400 mm 2.8, 500 mm f4. Those lenses. Those are huge lenses, more expensive. The 100-400 is an excellent lens, and you can also use it with 1.4x teleconverter if you have like 70 Mark II or 5D Mark IV, that sort of bodies. Which body you have?
I have 70 Mark II. 70 Mark II, sir.
70 Mark II, I think you can use 1.4x teleconverter with the 100-400 version 2.
Okay, sir. Would it compromise on the quality too much?
No,
Sir?
not to that extent. I mean, it'll slightly deteriorate at the tele end. Like you will get something like 500 and it's 1.4 into 400, 480 mm at the tele end.
Really? Means
Yeah.
when I want to focus at the far end,
Yeah.
I would get some image distortion. Otherwise, it would be good.
Slightly, very slightly.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. And I have one more thing, sir.
Yeah.
I want to start macro photography. Use which lens would suit me, sir? Like for a beginner.
For a beginner, I just answered that question. Anyway, I'll answer it again. You
For
can go
my
through the recording.
macro, sir.
No, you can go through the recording. I'll be posting the recording on my Facebook page.
Okay.
You can check it out.
Sure, sir.
But anyway, 100 mm macro lens is the ideal one. You can also go for the Tamron 90 mm. Sigma also has a 100 mm. Any one of these macro lenses are good. In Canon, there are two macro lenses. One is the IS version and the one is the non-IS version. You can go for the non-IS, which is equally competent. Only difference is it's got image stabilization. This doesn't have a image stabilization, which for a macro is not required.
Okay, sir. For macro, image stabilization is not required, sir.
Not required. You need to switch off the image stabilization really when you go into extreme 1:1 macro.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. Sir. Thank you.
Other questions? Karthik, you can ask questions.
Yeah. Hi, sir. This is
Hi.
Karthik here. So actually, there is too much of hype given for RF lens than EF.
Okay.
So is it because of only Canon has launched R series because of that? This is the only reason, or it's better to use RF than EF?
No, if you have a mirrorless camera, like
Okay.
one of the R series of the cameras, then using RF will give you a better quality on a mirrorless cameras because they are natively coupled. Whereas the EF lenses, they were made for the earlier one, and they have a different coating compared to what these mirrorless lenses, RF lenses have. So the Canon claims that it's brighter compared to EF lenses. I have seen the reviews. I have not personally tested RF lenses versus the EF lenses like 1-to-1. Uh, I have only used the 70-200, both the RF and the EF lenses together. I didn't find that much of a difference as blown out by one of those YouTube reviewers, who really talk
Yes,
about
sir.
it.
Yeah.
And the cost wise, it's too expensive compared to EF lenses. Focusing wise, if you have their own adapter, I don't see much of a difference between EF and RF as far as the focusing is concerned. So I still have a doubt in my mind whether RF is hyped, then it's really truly brighter.
Okay.
Doc, if I
Sounds
may
good.
add a point here,
Sure.
the other thing I think is that EF versus RF, RF will give you really, because those R bodies have IBIS, right? Inbuilt
Stabilization.
image
Yes.
stabilizing. So you'll get the full benefit of it, all the 8 stops. Otherwise, I think it'll come down to 3-4 stops. That is the only other difference, I would guess.
No, in this case, what happens is the EF lenses have got no in-body stabilization, but in lens stabilization is there. So if you use a EF lens on a R body, both will be working, but maybe one stop difference will be there. Yeah, one stop.
Okay, sir. So I'm not sure whether this is the right question to ask here
Sure.
regarding mirrorless or like normal DSLR. I'm holding now Canon 700D, sir. Now I'm using
Okay.
that 700D. It's
Okay.
almost 5-6 year old camera.
Yeah.
So just wanted to switch to a long-term camera body now. So I'm a little confused to go with mirrorless or normal DSLR.
Okay, if you're planning for a long term, it's mirrorless because Canon, Nikon, none of them are going to produce any more DSLRs. So there's not going to be any new DSLRs coming up. There'll be only mirrorless. They are going to concentrate only on mirrorless. So if you are going for a long term, then go for mirrorless. But if you are going to hold this particular DSLR, you still can hold for another 2 to 3 years.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So can we continue with the same Canon 700D and use some
Yes.
Better lens?
Yeah. You have a lot of second-hand lenses. For those guys who are jumping into the mirrorless wagon, they will be selling their good lenses at a cheaper rate. So now lot of these long telephoto lenses are available. So there are a lot of 70-200s available for about nearly 85,000 rupees. So 70-200 f2.8 version 2 are available for about say 80-85,000 rupees second hand. They are hardy lenses. I mean, these are professional grade quality lenses. They don't really get damage that easily. So you can inspect second hand lenses and really go for it. Then spending more money on a mirrorless and a mirrorless lens whole bandwagon.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much.
Muralidhar?
ಸರ್ ನಮಸ್ತೆ, ನಾನು ಪ್ರಿಯಾ
ನಮಸ್ತೆ
ಮುರಳಿ
ಪ್ರಿಯಾ, ಹೇಳಿ.
ನಾವು ವೆಡ್ಡಿಂಗ್ ಫೋಟೋಗ್ರಾಫರ್ ಪುತ್ತೂರಿಂದ. ಸರ್, ಔಟ್ಡೋರ್ ಫೋಟೋ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ವೈಡ್ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವ 14x24 ಇರೋದು 2.8. ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಗ್ರೌಂಡ್ ಅದು ನಾವು ಸ್ಕೈ ವಿತ್ ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಫೋಟೋ ತೆಗೆಯುವಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತೆಂಗಿನ ಮರ ಅಥವಾ ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಆಬ್ಜೆಕ್ಟ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಈ ಸೈಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಒಂದು ಪರ್ಪಲ್ ಕಲರ್ ಗ್ಲೋ ಟೈಪ್ ಅಪಿಯರ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ.
ಹೌದು.
ಅದು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕ್ಯಾಮರಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರು ಸಹ ಅದೊಂದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಉಂಟು. ಅದು ಮತ್ತೆ ತುಂಬಾ ಎಡಿಟಿಂಗ್ ಕರೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಾಗ್ತದೆ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಓವರ್ಕಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಏನಾದ್ರೂ ಸೊಲ್ಯೂಷನ್ ಉಂಟಾ?
ಲೈಟ್ ರೂಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಓವರ್ಕಮ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಇದು ಪರ್ಪಲ್ ಫ್ರಿಂಜ್ ಬರೋದು, ಅದು ಕ್ರೊಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಅಬರೇಷನ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮೇನ್ ನೀವು ಲೈಟ್ ರೂಮಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಕೆಳಗಡೆ ಹೋದರೆ ಕ್ರೊಮ್ಯಾಟಿಕ್ ಅಬರೇಷನ್ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಟ್ಯಾಬ್ ಇದೆ. ಆ ಟ್ಯಾಬಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಕರೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನೀವು ಉಳಿದ
ಹಾ.
ಯಾವುದು ಕರೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಮೊದಲು ಫಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಾಡಿ. ಆವಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ ಆ ಪರ್ಪಲ್ ಫ್ರಿಂಜ್ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ.
ವಿಡಿಯೋಕ್ಕಾಗುವಾಗ
ವಿಡಿಯೋಕ್ಕಾಗುವಾಗ ಕಷ್ಟ.
ಹೌದು.
ಹೌದು, ವಿಡಿಯೋಕ್ಕಾಗುವಾಗ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಐಡಿಯಲಿ ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಫಸ್ಟಿಗೆ ನೀವು ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ. ಇದು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಲೈಟ್ ಬರ್ತಾ ಇರುವಾಗ ಪರ್ಪಲ್ ಫ್ರಿಂಜಸ್ ಬರೋದು ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಎಗೇನ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಲೈಟ್ ಬಂದಾಗ ಆ ರೀತಿಯ ಪರ್ಪಲ್ ಫ್ರಿಂಜಸ್ ಬರೋದು.
ಇನ್ನೊಂದು
ಸೊ ಕೃಷಿ ಇದು ಫ್ರಿಂಜ್ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಮೇಲೆ ಕೂಡ
ಅದೇ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್
ನಿರ್ಧಾರ
ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ
ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ವಾ?
ಹೊಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ.
ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ
ಪ್ಲಸ್ ಇನ್ನೊಂದು,
ಹಾ,
ನೀವು
ಸೊ
ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕಿದ್ರೆ ಆ ಯು ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ತೆಗೆದು ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ ನೋಡಿ.
ಸರ್ ವೈಡ್ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಆಗುದಿಲ್ಲ
ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಲ್ಲ, ಅದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರೀಮ್ ವೈಡ್ 14 ಅದೇ ಕರೆಕ್ಟ್.
ಗಿರೀಶ್ ಸರ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಹೇಳ್ತೀರಾ?
ಗಿರೀಶ್,
ಇಲ್ಲ ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಕ್ವಶನ್. ನಾವು ಒಳ್ಳೊಳ್ಳೆ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ.
ಹ್ಮ್.
ಸೊ ಇದಕ್ಕೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಸಹ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಸಜೆಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀರಿ?
ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲೆನ್ಸನ್ನು ಡಿಟಿಯೋರೇಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಇದರಲ್ಲೂ ನೀವು ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕುವಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಡಿಟಿಯೋರೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಒಂದು, ನೀವು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹಿಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಅದರ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ನೀವು ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕಿದರೂ ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಡಿಟಿಯೋರೇಟ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಕನ್ಸೆಪ್ಟ್ ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ಲ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕುವಂಥದ್ದು, ಅದು ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಡೇಸಿಂದ ಬಂದದ್ದು. ಫಿಲ್ಮಲ್ಲಿ ಆವಾಗ ಫಿಲ್ಮ್ ಯು ವಿಗೆ ಅಲ್ಟ್ರಾವೈಲೆಟ್ ಲೈಟ್ಗೆ ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಸೆನ್ಸಿಟಿವ್ ಆಗಿತ್ತು. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಸ್ಕೈ ನಿಮಗೆ ಡಿಫ್ರೆಂಟ್ ಬ್ಲೂಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾಯಿತ್ತು. ಆದರೆ ಇವಾಗ ನಮ್ಮ ಹತ್ರ ಇರುವಂಥ ಈ ಡಿಜಿಟಲ್ ಸೆನ್ಸರ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲ್ಟ್ರಾವೈಲೆಟ್ ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾವುದೇ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾದಲ್ಲೂ ಅಲ್ಟ್ರಾವೈಲೆಟ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ತುಂಬ ಡಸ್ಟಿ ಎನ್ವೈರ್ನ್ಮೆಂಟಲ್ಲಿ, ನೀವು ರ್ಯಾಲಿ ಅಂಥದ್ದು ಯಾವುದಾದ್ರೂ ಒಂದು ಮೋಟೋಕ್ರಾಸ್ ಅಂಥದ್ದು ಏನಾದರೂ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಅಥವಾ ಕಂಬಳದ ಇದನ್ನು ಫೋಟೋಗಳನ್ನು ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಆವಾಗ ಧೂಳು ಬರಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾತ್ರ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಷನ್ಗಾಗಿ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು. ಉಳಿದ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕಬೇಡಿ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಏನಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ, ನೀವು ರಾತ್ರಿ ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಈ ಸ್ಟ್ರೀಟ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಪ್ ಅಂಥದ್ದು ಇದು ಶೂಟ್ ಮಾಡುವಾಗ ನೀವು ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕಿದರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೋಸ್ಟ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಆ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟ್ರಲ್ಲಿ ಆ ಲೈಟಿನ ರಿಫ್ಲೆಕ್ಷನ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಇಮೇಜಲ್ಲಿ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಇಮೇಜಸ್ ಲೈಟ್ ಇಮೇಜಸ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಎರಡೆರಡಾಗಿ ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಮತ್ತು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಹೆದರಿಕೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ನಿಮಗೆ, ನನ್ನ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಎದುರುಗಡೆ ಡ್ಯಾಮೇಜ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳುವಂಥದ್ದು. ಅದು ನಮ್ಮ ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ಗಳ ಹಾಗೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ಗಳ ಫ್ರಂಟ್ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಹಾರ್ಡನ್ಡ್ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್. ಅದು ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಅಷ್ಟು ಈಸಿಲಿ ಸ್ಕ್ರ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಸ್ಕ್ರ್ಯಾಚ್ ಆದರೂ ನಿಮಗೆ ಇಮೇಜ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟಾರ್ಷನ್ ಆಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಫೋಕಸ್ ಆ ಫ್ರಂಟ್ ಗ್ಲಾಸ್ನ ಫ್ರಂಟ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟ್ ಮೇಲ್ಗಡೆ ಇರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ತುಂಬ ದೂರ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನೀವು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಹೆದರುವಂಥ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಎಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಹಾಕಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಧೂಳಿನಿರುವಂಥ ಸ್ಥಳದಲ್ಲಿ, ಅಥವಾ ಶೂಟ್ ಆಗೋ ನಂತರ ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಾಕಿಬಿಡಿ. ಶೂಟ್ ಆಗುವಾಗ ನೀವು ತೆಗೆದುಬಿಡಿ. ನಾನು ಯಾವುದೇ ನನ್ನ ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾವುದಕ್ಕೂ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕೋದಿಲ್ಲ.
ನಾವು ತುಂಬಾ ಬಿಸಿಲಲ್ಲಿ
ಬಿಸಿಲಲ್ಲಾದರೂ ಏನು ಅಗತ್ಯ ಬೀಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಬೀಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಅಗತ್ಯ ಬೀಳೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅದು ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಡಿಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ.
ಕೆಲವು ಬಬಲ್ಸ್ ಟೈಪ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಅದರ ಮೇಲೆ, ಫೋಟೋದ ಮೇಲೆ. ಅದು
ಬಬಲ್ಸ್ ಅದು ಅದರಲ್ಲೇ ರಿಫ್ರಾಕ್ಷನ್ ಆದರೆ ನಿಮಗೆ ಆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಬರ್ಬೋದು. ಡೈರೆಕ್ಟಾಗಿ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸನ್ಲೈಟ್ ಬೀಳ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದರೆ ಒಂದಂತ ಹೇಳಿದರೆ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ ಹಾಕಬೇಕು. ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ ಇಸ್ ಅ ಮಸ್ಟ್. ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ನೀವು ಶೂಟೇ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗಬೇಡಿ. ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಫ್ರಂಟ್ ಎಲಿಮೆಂಟನ್ನು ನಿಜವಾಗಿ ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ನೀವು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಸಲ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ ತೆಗೆದಿರ್ತೀರ, ಆದರೆ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ಹಾಕ್ತೀರಾ, ಅದು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಯು ವಿ ಫಿಲ್ಟರ್ ತೆಗೀರಿ, ಬರೀ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ ಹಾಕಿಬಿಡಿ. ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಕೆಲವು ಲೆನ್ಸಿಗೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಚೀಪರ್ ಲೆನ್ಸಿಗೆ ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಿವ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಲೆನ್ಸಸ್ಸಿಗೆ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಚೈನೀಸ್ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ ಆದರೂ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ, ತೊಂದರೆ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಒಟ್ಟಾಗಿ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಹುಡ್ ನಿಮಗೆ ಆ ಫ್ಲ್ಯಾರನ್ನು, ಆ ಬಬಲ್ ಥರ ಕಾಣುವಂಥದ್ದು ಅದು ಫ್ಲ್ಯಾರ್, ಅದು ಸನ್ಲೈಟ್ ಫ್ಲ್ಯಾರ್. ಆ ಫ್ಲ್ಯಾರನ್ನು ತೆಗೆಯುತ್ತೆ ಅದು. ಟ್ರೈ ಮಾಡಿ ನೋಡಿ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಓಕೆ. ಗಿರೀಶ್, ಎನಿ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್? ಉಳಿದವರು ಯಾವ್ದಾದ್ರು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆಗಳಿದ್ದರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಕೈ ಎತ್ತಿ.
ಸರ್, ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ
ಹೇಳಿ.
ಅದು ವಿಚ್ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಸೂಟ್ಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಜಾನರ್ ಆಫ್ ಫೋಟೋಗ್ರಫಿಗೆ ಆಪ್ಟ್ ಆಗದೆ ಇರ್ಬೋದು. ಬಟ್ ಒಂದ್ ಸರ್, ಈಗ ಈ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲ ತುಂಬಾ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಂಗಸ್ ಆಗತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, ಹೌ ಟು ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಫ್ರಮ್ ಗೆಟಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ಫೆಕ್ಟೆಡ್?
ನೀವು ಯಾವ ಊರಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀರಾ? ಕೋಸ್ಟಲ್ ಏರಿಯಾ ಅಥವಾ
ಹಾಸನಲ್ಲಿ
ಹಾಸನದಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀರಿ?
ಹಾಸನಲ್ಲಿ.
ಹಾಸನ
ಹೌದು.
ಮಲೆನಾಡು ನಿಮಗೆ ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಇದಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಯು ನೀಡ್ ಅ ಡಿಹ್ಯೂಮಿಡಿಫೈಯರ್. ಡಿಹ್ಯೂಮಿಡಿಫೈಯರ್ ಒಂದು ನೀವೇ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು, ತುಂಬ ಈಸಿಯಾಗಿ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ ನೀವು ಯೂಟ್ಯೂಬ್ ಚಾನಲ್ ಪಿಕ್ಸೆಲ್ ವಿಲೇಜ್ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿರ್ಬೋದು, ರಾಧಾಕೃಷ್ಣನ್ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
ಇಲ್ದಿದ್ರೆ ಸರ್ಚ್ ಮಾಡಿ. ಅವರು ಇತ್ತೀಚೆಗೆ ಲಾಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು ವೀಕ್ 2 ವೀಕ್ ಹಿಂದ್ಗಡೆ ಒಂದು ಡೂ ಇಟ್ ಯೋರ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ಡಿಹ್ಯೂಮಿಡಿಫೈಯರ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ನಿಯರ್ಲಿ ಲೆಸ್ ದೆನ್ 1000 ರೂಪೀಸಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಥರ್ಮೋಕಾಲ್ ಶೀಟ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಹೀಟರ್ ಹಾಕ್ಕೊಂಡು ಮಾಡಲಿಕ್ಕೆ. ಆ ರೀತಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಮಾಡಿ ನೀವು ಅದನ್ನು ಅದರ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಲೆನ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಇಡಬೇಕು. ಕ್ಯಾಮ್ರಾ ಇಡಬೇಕಂತಿಲ್ಲ, ಲೆನ್ಸ್ಗಳನ್ನು ಅದರೊಳಗೆ ಇಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಅಥವಾ
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಓಕೆ.
ಬಿಲ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ ಡಿಹ್ಯೂಮಿಡಿಫೈರ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. ದೋಸ್ ಆರ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೆನ್ಸಿವ್, ಅಬೌಟ್ 5,000 to 6,000. ನೀವು ನನ್ನ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟಿಗೆ ಹೋದರೆ drkrishi.com, ಆ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟಿಗೆ ಹೋದರೆ
ಓಕೆ.
ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಹ್ಯೂಮಿಡಿಫೈಯರ್ ಹುಡುಕಿ, ಅಥವಾ ಗೂಗಲಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಹ್ಯೂಮಿಡಿಫೈಯರ್ ಅಂತ ಹಾಕಿದರೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಒಂದು 4-5 ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನನ್ನ ರಿವ್ಯೂ ಬಂದಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಈ ಸಿರುಯಿ
ಓಕೆ.
ಡಿಹ್ಯೂಮಿಡಿಫೈಯರನ್ನು ನಾನು ರಿವ್ಯೂ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಆ ರೀತಿಯ ಡಿಹ್ಯೂಮಿಡಿಫೈಯರ್ ನೀವು ಚೆಕ್ ಮಾಡಿ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
Anybody else want to ask question?
I think till that time Vinod can use silica gels as well to protect
Yeah,
the lens.
yeah,
in case
yeah,
of
exactly.
fungus.
ಯಾವ ಸರ್? ಸಿಲಿಕಾ
ಸಿಲಿಕಾ
ಜೆಲ್
ಜೆಲ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ.
Silica gel. Yeah.
ಲ್ಯಾಬಿಗೆ ಹೋದರೆ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಗೋ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಎನಿ ಲ್ಯಾಬೊರೇಟರಿ ಸಪ್ಲೈಸ್, ಆಸ್ ದೆಮ್ ಫಾರ್ ಅ ಕಲರ್
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್.
ಚೇಂಜಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಲಿಕಾ ಜೆಲ್. ಸೊ ಒಂದು 1/2 kilo ಏನಾದ್ರು ಸಿಲಿಕಾ ಜೆಲ್
ಓಕೆ
ತಗೋಬೋದು. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ವಾಟ್ ಯು
ಓಕೆ
ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಡೂ
ಸರ್.
ಇಸ್ ಪುಟ್ ಇಟ್ ಇನ್ ಅ ಮೇಕ್ ಎ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಪಿಲೋ ಟೈಪ್ ಆಫ್ ಪಿಲೋ ಕೇಸ್. So similar to pillowcase,
ಓಕೆ
make a pillowcase, put a silica gel in that, then get one
ಓಕೆ
airtight box. Airtight box, ನಮ್ಮ ಫುಡ್ ಗ್ರೇಡ್ airtight box ಆಗುತ್ತಲ್ಲ. So
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್. ಓಕೆ
that
ಸರ್.
sort of box, put your camera gear in that, put a silica gel.
ಓಕೆ
So
ಓಕೆ
once it absorbs moisture, it changes color from blue to pink. It will become. So take
ಓಕೆ
out the
ಸರ್.
silica, take a dosa tawa, fry it nicely, then it changes back
ಓಕೆ
the color. Once it's
ಓಕೆ
not hot enough, again put back into the
ಓಕೆ
pillow cover and seal it and keep it inside the cover. That's
ಓಕೆ
another
ಸರ್,
way of
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
doing it. ಬಟ್ ಇನ್ನು
ವೆರಿ
ರೈನಿ
ಯೂಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಟಿಪ್ ಸರ್,
ರೈನಿ
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.
ಸೀಸನಲ್ಲಿ ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ನೀವು ತುಂಬ ಸಲ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗತ್ತೆ ಅಷ್ಟೇ.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್. ಬಟ್ ಅದು ಅದೇ ಹ್ಯೂಮಿಡಿಫೈಯರ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರಲ್ಲ ಸರ್, 4-5
ಹೌದೌದು,
thousand. ಅದು ಇದ್ರೆ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಮಾಡೋ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಇಲ್ಲಲ್ಲ
ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ,
ಸರ್?
ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಅಗತ್ಯ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ಓಕೆ.
Because
So
once your
humidifier
lens,
can be used in the rainy season as well.
yes, it can be done in the rainy season as well.
So the camera humidity needs to be around 40% or so, if I'm
Yeah,
correct, Doc.
yeah, 40% is the
35 to
correct one.
40, and in rainy season it goes to up to 60 plus 70 at times in coastal areas. So it's really important to have camera equipments in a stable humidity when not in use, basically regular usage.
Yeah.
ಓಕೆ ಓಕೆ
And the biggest mistake a lot of people do is keep it in the bag. That's the most humid environment. Your camera bag is the most humid environment
Right, right.
because it has got a felt inside, and that absorbs all the moisture and keeps it inside. So
ಓಹೋ.
So how do you suggest to keep it in that scenario then? Because I already kept my camera in the bag inside.
okay, do you first take it out, keep it in an open space where it's much more drier. So if you have a AC
Okay.
room, you can always keep it in the AC room because humidity is much less in a AC room. The second thing, as I just suggested, Vinod, Pixel Village had recently put a video. Go to YouTube, search for Pixel Village, and he has made one small contraption using heater and thermocol box, and that
Okay.
costs only about 1,000 rupees. So if you are uh, if you're not in a market for a dehumidifier, you can go for that. Otherwise, as a long-term investment, I suggest invest in a dehumidifier if you are living in a coastal or a highly humid region. people who live in Bangalore can forget about it. But even Bangalore, I think humidity has gone up now. Girish, what do you say?
Yeah, actually, we didn't need it so say, but now the humidity is going up, so it probably a good time to start using it.
Yeah,
Thank you.
welcome.
So, Krishi, the other question that we usually keep coming across is, I'm going for a certain kind of store. I mean, I'm going to so and so place. What lenses should I take? So, how should people actually choose it? Because usually my answer is that the best lens to carry is the one that you understand or the one you have with you, rather than taking a lens that you've not used before.
I agree.
What would you say about
Yeah, I agree. Most of the time, people make this mistake of buying a new gear or buying a new lens or renting a new lens, which they are not familiar with, and go for a trip and try to use that lens, and they find it totally sort of flabbergasted. That's probably the word, because if your camera is new, then you don't know which button really works where. If a lens is not new, if a lens is new, you don't know what is the outcome of that particular lens. My suggestion for most people is start sticking with one or two lenses and keep on working with it for years together to understand the lens. It takes nearly 2 to 3 years to understand quality of a particular lens. So at least few weeks at least you have to spend if you really want a great result out of that lens. One thing is, the focal length. That's what it makes a lot of difference. That's where the prime lenses really work well, because they are only one focal length, so you don't mess around with many focal lengths. Even if you are using a zoom, find a comfortable point in a zoom. For example, if you have a 70 to 200 lens, if you find that your 100 mm is your comfortable zone, how do you know comfortable zone? You take multiple shots in different focal length and you find one of them is attractive to you. So that is your comfortable zone. So you start using that particular zone again and again and again. See, remember, when you're framing a picture, there are two ways of framing it. One is with the zooming of your lens, and another one is approaching the subject closer and going far away. Both will give you that same effect of a frame, but the relationship of your foreground, midground and background, these are different in different frames. If you are using a focal length to frame yourself, then it's different. So if you are moving forward and backward and trying to frame, then it's different. And having a prime lens instead of a zoom lens gives you that forced aspects. Like in the case of prime lens, you can't zoom at all, so you are forced to walk towards that particular point, forced to frame in a particular way how you want to do it. So that way, slowly your methodology as well as your framing as well as placing the subject gets refined, and over time you'll start developing that vision of how do you want to really frame a picture to get the optimum results. So there is no hard and fast rule that this should be the lens. Comfortable depending on the genre. For example, somebody is going on a wildlife trip on a safari jeep. You can't ask him to go with the 500 mm lens. What happens is, if he is not used to 500 mm prime lens, he won't find the tiger at all. Even though it's in front of his jeep, he won't be able to focus it at all, unless you are used to that smaller area of framing which the 500 mm does. So he might be more comfortable with the 70 to 200 or a 150 to 600, that sort of zoom, than using a prime lens. So it all depends on your experience with that particular lens, your proficiency with that particular lens, and your quickness, how you can learn with that particular lens.
Yeah, that's very aptly put. The other, while you were speaking, the other question that popped up in my mind was the, you actually mentioned it, the angle of view for each for each focal length or each lens, it's different.
Yes.
Could you, say something about that,
Okay.
Rishi?
Wide angle lens have got a wide angle of view, whereas tele lenses will have a narrow angle of view. And normal lenses is where your angle of view matches your vision as a human being. Without the camera in front of you, your vision, it's somewhere in the range of 40 to 50 mm lens. So anything wider than 40 to 50 is considered as a wide angle lens. 40 to 50 is considered as a normal lens, and anything narrower than that is considered as a tele lens. So tele lenses go from 50 to all the way up to 800 or 1200 mm, and wide angle lenses go behind the 50 mm, wide angle up to say about 10 mm. Now these MMs are really calculated if you have a full frame camera. So if you have a cropped camera, you have to multiply the crop by that particular point. For example, if you have a Canon or a Nikon crop camera, it's 1.6 for Canon and 1.5 times for Nikon. If you have a Micro Four Thirds, it's 2 times the magnification. If you have a mobile phone, it's much higher. It's nearly, I think, four times or something. So it all depends on the angle of view changes with the focal length. So basically what you want to capture fits into that particular angle of view, as well as it compresses the foreground, midground and background. So if you are going to the tele, it compresses. If you are going wider than normal, it expands. So the relationship what you see will get much more expanded when you go to a wide angle lens. So using that, you tell a story. So the story can be a wide vistas of such beautiful place, then you have to go for a wide angle lens. That's where most people who are going for the landscape photography, who want to show a huge vista in front of the viewer, in front of their camera, will go for a wide angle lens. If you are telling a normal story like street photography, so 35 to 50 mm lens is the one which tells a story in relation to how humans really interact with one another. Or isolating the subject without distorting him, that's where the portrait lens comes in, that's where the 85 to 135 range comes in. Then you want to go and reach that bird which you can't really see very close, that is where you get the tele lens. So these are the different genres and these are the different type of lenses you go for.
Awesome. So does anybody else have a question?
Yeah, we are already at 9 o'clock.
It's 9. Yeah, it's 9:10. We're past 9.
Yeah.
So if there are no more questions, we can actually wind up.
Yeah. If you have any suggestions for the next Clubhouse session, you can also give.
Anybody? I mean, if there is any doubts or any topic that you would like to know more about, please feel free to suggest it to us so that we can pick it up.
Editing the photographs.
Editing photographs, I think it will be difficult as an oral subject without showing you the screen how to do the editing. I'll see. I'll try. I don't think it's possible, just to tell in words how to do the editing.
I mean, as far as editing is concerned, Krishi, I think workshop is the only
Workshops.
solution.
We do
Even
conduct
showing it
workshops.
on. So yeah.
So one topic which I was looking was like using an old camera with upgrading lenses, or going with the new camera and lens. New body or lenses actually.
Okay.
So I'm not sure like whether this is covered or not. Just one.
No, it is not
topic
covered. I
just
think
wanted-
it's relevant here because there was a
Okay.
lot of questions already came in,
Okay,
camera
okay.
lenses and mirrorless. Your lenses will last for years together. So hold on to lenses, and if you are not satisfied with your body, and you want more new features or a better type of sensor or a different crop factor. For example, you are in the cropped body, you want to go to full frame, then only you shift your body. So basically, when you upgrade something in photography, you have to really think what you're going to get out of that after spending that much of amount of money. There is a syndrome called gear acquisition syndrome. It's very common with when your friends have got those new bodies, new lenses, you start getting the urge to buy those new cameras. Or when you find that your work is not as good as their work, you think that buying that new gear will make my work better. Remember, it's not the gear, it's not the gear which makes your work better or worse. You have to learn how to use your gear extremely well. So unless your gear is really breaking down, don't upgrade.
Okay, sir. Thank you. And how about the videography, sir? Like wedding or videographies for that scenario? Will
Same
be
thing,
the
same
same
thing. Suppose
answer?
you
Same
you are
thing. Okay.
in a full HD camera, and your client is asking for a 4K cameras, or you are in a DSLR which is struggling in the low light, or you have a lens which is struggling in the low light, and then most of the photographs what you are taking is in the low light. If you need that particular point, then you upgrade. Several of the existing cameras are really capable for another 2 to 3 years without upgrading. So think about those pros and cons. And remember, when you spend money, especially if you are in the professional business, when you spend money, if it doesn't give 3 to 4 times what you spend money, it is not worth spending money.
Okay, sir. Sure.
Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
I think we can call it a day. Girish, we'll think about
Yes,
the topic
Krishi.
next session. So thanks everybody for joining. We will have a similar session on photography on a different topic related to photography every Wednesday between 8 and 9 p.m. So please do join our Creative Focus group. We also have live workshops. We used to do Zoom workshops, but considerably because there is lack of interest in Zoom workshop, maybe because of the fatigue of lockdown, we have stopped. But we are planning to start from next month onwards live workshops in Bangalore and in Tirthahalli, in several other places. So please do join our clubhouse. You can always contact me on Facebook. I am there as Dr. Krishi. You can also message me. I'm on WhatsApp. I'm on all the other media. You just search for DRKRISHI, Dr. Krishi. In any of the media, you will be able to find me. Thank you. Good night, all. See you next week.
Thank you all. Good night. See you on next Wednesday.